Public lands ranchers pay $1.35 to have a cow and its calf on the public rangeland for a month. And if you go to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and look at the statistics on range and grazing, I wrote an op-ed on this. The average rate to lease unirrigated Western rangeland, this was 2 or 3 years ago, was over $20 an animal unit month, cow and calf. And they're paying $1.35. And I calculated that subsidy over a ranching operation, let's say 1,000 cattle, and it was a subsidy of $200,000 a year over what they would have to pay if it was all private land and not theirs. And if you go deep into the weeds of Taylor grazing, and you look at the language and why they've set the rate so low, it's to accommodate the effect of other public uses in multiple use public lands that might have an effect. And predation is one of them. It's kind of built into the formula. Yeah, you might lose some animals to predation, but nobody goes there. Every act of predation is treated as something that should be compensated, must be compensated. It's a mess, and it all goes way back to the way ranching was established and the way rangelands were originally established. Forests were established and grazing allotments were established based on base properties. The key factor that keeps the rate low and keeps the stocking rates high is that at some point in time, originally, ranchers with the base property were just granted the privileges to use the grazing allotments that adjoined their base property and just charged rent based on, the animal unit month. It hasn't changed in decades. Still $1.35. In fact, it's gone down sometimes. But they didn't pay for it. It was just granted as a privilege. They had to follow agency rules. But at some point in time, ranchers decided to sell their ranches. And real estate agents and bankers began to put a price and a value on the privilege of using those grazing allotments and a value on the number of animal unit months that were allotted. So let's say a rancher got 500 AUMs was allotted and wants to sell his ranch. In the interim, the agencies have done their field reviews and they've decided that that's 200 cows too many, that the range is degrading, being damaged ecologically, and that really they need to set the number quite a bit lower. But if that rancher has already taken a deal with the real estate agent and the bank based on being allowed to run 500 head and he wants to sell, everybody's up in arms. The rancher's up in arms. The banker's up in arms. The banker's good friend, the congressman, is then contacted. Forest Service wants to cut my constituents in half. It's going to destroy them. They'll have to go out of business. That dynamic has been in play for decades, and that's really hard to overcome, even today, because now ranches are bought and sold all the time. And we talk to a rancher and say, "Yeah, I got the X-Bar Ranch. It's an 80,000 acre spread, and I run 500 head." You go dig into it, and it might own 200 acres, and the rest is public grazing a lot. But it's the ranch, what's been established. I don't want to come across as anti-rancher, doing what they're allowed to do, and they're trying to make a living. But that's the system that we've inherited. And when you try to overlay something new on it, like the Endangered Species Act, you push all those buttons, and it's really difficult to overcome and to achieve some kind of harmony and consensus over those issues.